Imagine waking up at dawn, but instead of scrolling through your phone, you're scanning the horizon for predators. The air is thick with the smell of wet earth and smoke from last night's fire. You're hungry, not for a snack, but for survival itself. Your stomach growls as your tribe debates whether to hunt, gather, or move camp before danger finds you. In this world, love isn't about romance. It's about alliances, protection, and passing on your genes. Respect isn't given. It's earned through strength, skill, and the stories you leave behind. This isn't just history. This is the real life of your ancestors, 3.6 million years ago. Picture Africa, 3.6 million years ago. The air is dry and sharp in the mornings, thick with the smell of dust and grass. The land stretches into endless savannas, dotted with patches of woodland and twisted acacia trees. Herds of antelope and zebra graze under a blazing sun, while predators, lions, saber-tooths, and hyenas patrol the shadows. Our ancestors at this time weren't Homo sapiens yet. They were likely Australopithecus afarensis, shorter, lighter, and far more vulnerable than we are today. They could walk upright, but they still climbed trees for safety. At a glance, they looked like a strange blend of ape and human, their long arms and small brains telling the story of evolution still in progress. For them, every day was a negotiation with danger. Venturing too far from the group could mean being hunted. Staying too close to the trees offered safety, but fewer opportunities to find food. Waterholes were life-giving, but also ambush zones. In this world, survival was about balance and luck. Rainfall could mean an abundance of berries, roots, and small prey. A dry season could mean desperation. Fire, as we know it, wasn't yet mastered. Nights were lit only by moonlight and the nervous glow of starlight. These were not simple lives, as we might imagine. Each decision, where to move, what to eat, who to trust, was a calculated gamble shaped by instincts, honed over millions of years of survival. The social unit was small, perhaps a dozen individuals. Too many mouths to feed could mean starvation. Too few meant vulnerability to predators or rival groups. Within this fragile circle, every member had a role. Some scouted for food, some watched for danger, and mothers guarded their young with fierce attention. Movement was constant. These early hominins didn't have permanent homes. Instead, they followed the rhythms of the land, the migration of prey, the ripening of fruit, the seasonal rains that turned dry earth into fertile ground. They built no villages, only temporary shelters made from branches and leaves. At night, they often slept in trees to avoid ground predators. Danger didn't just come with claws and teeth. Disease, injuries, and even weather could be fatal. A broken bone could end a life in a world without medicine. Thunderstorms could flood lowlands, forcing a sudden relocation. And in a landscape without maps, every journey was a venture into the unknown. Food gathering was an all-day mission. Women and children often foraged for roots, berries, nuts, and insects, the dependable calories. Males sometimes joined in, but also engaged in opportunistic hunting, bringing down small game or scavenging from kills made by larger predators. Risk was constant, but so was the need for protein. Every sunrise was a reset button. The group never knew what the day would bring. Their survival relied not just on strength, but on awareness, cooperation, and an ability to adapt on the fly. The landscape was not just a backdrop, it was an active, unpredictable force. Earthquakes shook the ground without warning. Grass fires, sparked by lightning, could sweep across the plains in minutes, forcing the group to scatter and regroup. Even the skies told stories. The shifting clouds signaled rain, migration, or approaching storms, if you knew how to read them. Communication was primitive but vital. Without language as we know it, they relied on vocal calls, gestures, and facial expressions. A sharp bark of alarm could mean predator nearby. A low, repetitive hum might soothe an infant or calm the group. These sounds were as essential as any tool, helping them coordinate and survive in an environment that offered no second chances, while they lacked the weapons or fire mastery of later humans. They did use sticks, stones, and bones as crude tools. A sharp-edged rock could cut, meet, or dig for roots. A sturdy branch might be used to intimidate a predator or another tribe. These simple implements were not just practical, they marked the beginning of humanity's long relationship with technology. And yet, for all the dangers, there were moments of peace. The group might gather under a tree's shade, grooming each other, sharing food, and simply existing together. These bonds, emotional as much as practical, were their true safety net. In a dangerous world, trust was currency, and those who broke it rarely lasted long. In early tribes, mating wasn't just about reproduction, it was a silent battleground for status, influence, and survival. Every interaction between males and females carried weight. Who mated with whom could shift alliances, grant protection, or spark conflict. Unlike modern societies with rituals and romance, mating choices were often guided by instinct, opportunity, and dominance. Stronger males, those who could protect food sources, fend off predators, and assert control, had better chances of securing mates. But strength wasn't always physical. Sometimes it was about cunning, knowing when to share food, when to show aggression, and when to form temporary alliances with rivals. Females weren't passive in this exchange. They had their own strategies, often seeking partners who could provide safety and resources for their offspring. In a world where a single predator attack could wipe out a lineage, choosing the right mate was a matter of survival, not preference. These dynamics created an unspoken social map within the group. High-ranking individuals mated more frequently, while lower-ranking ones might be pushed to the fringes, relying on stolen opportunities or secret pairings. Every choice left ripples. A new birth meant another mouth to feed, another potential rival in the hierarchy. Sex was survival's shadow, not always visible, but always shaping the group's future. And in this delicate balance, power and reproduction were woven together in ways that would echo throughout human evolution. Competition for mates wasn't always a dramatic fight, though physical clashes did happen, sometimes with deadly consequences. More often, it was a slow, subtle game of positioning. Males might shadow a female during her fertile period, offering her food or protection in exchange for exclusive access. Rivals might try to interrupt, inserting themselves into foraging trips or group rest stops, testing the boundaries without triggering an all-out fight. Displays of strength were common, a male chasing off a predator, dragging back a heavy carcass, or standing firm during a territorial dispute sent a clear message: I can protect you and your offspring. But strength alone didn't always guarantee success. Intelligence, the ability to anticipate danger, navigate group politics, and avoid unnecessary injury often made the difference between a short reign and lasting influence. For females, attraction could be about more than physical prowess. A male who shared food consistently, who didn't overextend his aggression, and who could maintain alliances was a safer bet for raising young. In a tribe where every member was needed for survival, a reckless partner was a liability, and so mating wasn't a free-for-all. It was an unending negotiation, with each act carrying the weight of risk and reward. The wrong choice could leave one exposed to retaliation, isolation, or reduced access to resources. The right choice could secure protection, food, and a stronger position in the group for both the female and her offspring. Not all pairings happened in the open. In fact, some of the most consequential matings were the ones no one was supposed to know about. A lower-ranking male might wait until the dominant male was distracted, perhaps on a hunt or guarding a kill to approach a receptive female. These secret liaisons carried immense risk. If caught, the consequences could be violent, even fatal. For females, such covert choices were calculated gambles. They might be drawn to traits not found in the dominant male: agility, gentleness, or the ability to quietly provide food without drawing attention. These hidden bonds sometimes resulted in offspring whose parentage was unclear, subtly reshaping the tribe's genetic and social landscape. But secrecy had a cost. If suspicions arose, tensions could flare into open hostility, fracturing alliances and threatening group stability. A leader who felt his position undermined might respond with aggressive dominance, displays, punishments, or even expelling rivals from the group. Still, betrayal, or at least bending the rules, was part of the social fabric. It created a web of rivalries, loyalties, and grudges that could last for seasons. And while dangerous, it also introduced variation into the gene pool, ensuring that survival didn't rest solely on the offspring of a single dominant male. In this way, sex and power were inseparable. Every choice, whether open or secret, fed into a constant cycle of challenge and adaptation, the very forces that would push our species forward over millennia. Leadership in early tribes wasn't about titles or crowns. It was about survival. The leader was often the one who could consistently make decisions that kept the group alive, choosing when to move, where to find food, and how to respond to threats. But leadership was never secure. Every day was a test, and a single poor decision could shift loyalty to someone else. Dominance often went hand in hand with leadership. A physically imposing male might intimidate rivals into submission, but sheer strength wasn't enough. Leaders had to command respect, not just fear. A reckless leader who hoarded food or ignored danger signs could quickly lose followers, and in a small group, losing followers meant losing power. Hierarchy emerged as a way to maintain order. Clear ranking reduced the number of constant fights, allowing the group to focus on survival. Those at the top ate first, claimed the best sleeping spots, and had the most mating opportunities. Those lower down accepted their place for the moment, while waiting for a chance to climb the ladder. Even at this early stage in human evolution, politics was part of life. Leaders formed alliances with strong fighters, favored certain individuals with food, and used strategic acts of generosity to maintain support. The game wasn't always fair, but in a dangerous world, stability often mattered more than equality. Power in early tribes was never permanent. A leader might enjoy seasons of dominance, only to be challenged by a younger, stronger, or more cunning rival. These challenges didn't always erupt into open violence. Sometimes, the groundwork for a takeover was laid quietly over time. A rival might build alliances by sharing food, offering protection, or subtly undermining the leaders' decisions. Small comments, shared in the right moments, could plant seeds of doubt. Why did we move to this area if the water is drying up? Why risk hunting near the predator's den? In a community where survival depended on trust in leadership, doubt could be just as dangerous as claws or teeth. When a challenge did turn physical, the entire group's fate hung in the balance. A defeated leader could be injured, driven out, or in rare cases, killed. If the new leader took power without demonstrating skill in finding resources or avoiding danger, the whole tribe could suffer. But challenges weren't always about replacing the leader. Sometimes, lower-ranking members pushed boundaries simply to gain more access to food, mates, or better sleeping areas. These smaller disputes could be resolved through displays of dominance, raised voices, aggressive postures, or controlled bursts of violence without tearing the group apart. Hierarchy, then, wasn't fixed. It was a living system, shaped by constant negotiation. Each shift in power rippled through every aspect of life, from who ate first to who survived the next predator attack. These first hierarchies were fragile, but they planted the seeds for something enduring, the human tendency to organize ourselves into structured groups. What began as a way to decide who led the hunt or claimed the safest sleeping spot slowly became a blueprint for future societies. The rules were unwritten but understood. Leaders provided safety, stability, and access to resources. In return, followers offered loyalty, support in conflicts, and cooperation in daily survival tasks. Break that balance, and the system collapsed. Keep it steady, and the group thrived. Even then, the dynamics weren't purely about dominance. Leaders often rewarded loyalty with food, shared spoils, or protection from aggression. This reciprocity created early forms of political exchange, a survival version of give and take. Over time, these practices would evolve into the alliances, treaties, and negotiations that define human governance today. Perhaps most importantly, hierarchy shaped identity. Each member of the tribe knew their place, their responsibilities, and what they could expect from others. That predictability reduced chaos in a dangerous world. It also meant that social bonds forged through cooperation, trust, and mutual benefit became just as important as physical strength. The echoes of these primitive systems still live in us. Whether in boardrooms, communities, or governments, the same instincts that once decided who ate first now shape who leads, who follows, and how power is shared or taken. Life 3.6 million years ago was raw, unforgiving, and deeply human in its own way. Sex, survival, and social hierarchy weren't separate forces, they were threads in the same web, shaping who lived, who led, and who was remembered, from the first sparks of leadership to the quiet politics of attraction. Our ancestors laid the foundations for everything we are today. If this glimpse into our deep past made you rethink what it means to be human, hit subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and join us as we uncover more untold chapters of our ancient story.